And that's the magic behind Alliance, because we are able to listen to the founders in a way that they can fully open up to us so that we can solve the hardest problems for them. So they can almost think of us as therapists.
Teaching us something new. That's something that comes up a lot during interviewer feedback, and we are positively surprised when somebody changes our view of the world, of what's possible. They tell us about some interesting customer behavior. And that is a great signal because it shows that you've done your homework. It shows that you either shipped an MVP and you got feedback on it. It shows that you're talking with the right people and learning these interesting insights. Or it tells us that you're a domain expert and that you have a lot of experience in that field. So if you're able to, during the short interview that you have with Alliance, to change your view on something about the world or about the market that we're in, the crypto industry, that's great.
And it doesn't necessarily need to be like something that you've never heard before. It's just a different way to explain a unique insight, right?
Yeah, that's right. It could be a different application of a certain technology that we've already seen. It could be that, oh, this is actually the segment and the underserved market that needs this. There are many ways to slice it up.
And what do you, Chao? What do you think?
Same thing, I'm looking for either traction or unique insights into the users. But I want to share two super basic mistakes that founders make during the application, just so they can avoid these easy ways to get passed on. So the first one is the application is just so lazy. Like when we read an application and if it looks lazy, it looks like the founder didn't put enough effort into it, it's automatic pass for us because it just shows that you're not taking this opportunity seriously, and that would be a waste of time for both the founder and us. So that's the first super basic mistake. And the second one is explaining your product, your market in a way that is not using down-to-earth language, in a way that uses too many buzzwords, for example, right? So this usually tells me that you are confused about what you're building, and you try to give me this small screen and try to hide the fact that you don't understand your market. The more clear you are about what you're building, usually the better you can explain it in simple language. So that's what I would advise founders do.
Yeah, I would add to that I feel like most applications, whatever you're saying with 1,000 words, you can probably say the same message with 500 or so words. So cut aggressively.
Yeah.
I think those two are related in some form because being lazy, it's like you just did the first version and you shipped it and you submitted it. Yeah. So what's a good way to avoid being lazy?
Some of the most successful applications that we've seen, founders tell us that they went through multiple revisions themselves. And sometimes, very often, the most successful applicants, they will ask other people to review their application, either other founders, other Alliance founders, and this way they're able to get an external viewpoint on, oh, this doesn't seem clear to me. And if it doesn't seem clear to your fellow founder, it probably won't seem clear to us when we're reading our application as well.
Where can founders reach out to other Alliance founders?
There's a few ways of doing that. The most common seems to be Twitter DMs, but you should get creative. You should see who do you know that knows other Alliance founders. Some have done it through LinkedIn. Some have done it through some of the crypto native platforms, but Twitter seems the most common, but definitely it's something where persistence and creativity helps.
How to be successful once you get into Alliance?
The screening process and the application process is actually trying to validate whether it will be successful once you're in the program. For me, it's a variation of how to succeed as an applicant, which is speed of execution. And it is speed of execution because during a certain week, we're going to talk about certain problems, and then you're going to spend time that week and trying to work on those problems for us to have another conversation. And what we're trying to get there is closer to the truth, closer to what is the actual problem that we're solving and how do we actually solve it. And the faster you execute based on the feedback and experiences that you're having talking to your user and understanding more about their behavior when they actually use your product, the closer you get to learning about them. Your product is gonna need to go through hundreds of either major or sometimes minor iterations, but it's gonna need to evolve a lot from your current MVP to what is going to solve a fundamental user need. And so the faster you can get there, the more shots you have on target before either you run out of money or of enthusiasm about what you're building.
For me, one of the worst ways to fail the program is lack of humility, is not taking our feedback seriously, or even not asking us for feedback on a continuous basis. And conversely, one of the best ways to succeed is to talk to us all the time and get our feedback on how they approach things, how they think about product, how they should be talking to users, how they should be thinking about fundraising and hiring, all that stuff. We like humble founders and teams is because we've seen the same mistakes having been made over and over again. We've worked with hundreds of startups. The nice thing about what we do, in contrast to the later stage investors, is we've seen more cases, more scenarios, and oftentimes the same mistakes get repeated. A lot of founders think they are the exception to the rule. And statistically, that is not the case. You're not the exception. A lot of founders think they're the next Steve Jobs, but they really are not. Most of us are not. I've never seen a Steve Jobs, by the way. And so avoiding the mistakes and listening to the feedback that we give them maximizes their chance of success. So we love founders who talk to us on a day-to-day basis. I love waking up to hundreds of messages on Telegram from our founders.
And we can also see that intuitively, and even with the data, the founders that talk the most to us seem to be the ones that grow their products and their companies the most.
What are some of the ways that founders, after they get accepted, they can talk to mentors consistently at Alliance? Like, what are some of the channels that we've been able to make us unique so that we can provide good mentorship?
There's three primary channels. We each have chat groups with our teams where they communicate with us. And often, as we've been mentioning, that happens on a daily basis with the more active and those more successful teams. We also do plenty of one-on-one mentorships, and these typically happen through calls. And there we'll go deeper on a certain problem that this startup is experiencing. But more broadly, a lot of founders seem to find solutions based on their peer feedback as well, which happens through our internal forum. And that's how you get to leverage our whole community and founders that have sometimes been building in crypto for a very long time and have been through that problem that you're struggling with.
One thing I would add is founders tend to not be open to show their vulnerabilities. They cannot be vulnerable to their employees. They cannot be vulnerable to their investors because they're constantly selling to their employees and their investors. And so who did they even talk to about their problems aside from their co-founder, right? Even within a marriage, a couple, once they experience some problems that they cannot solve among themselves, they need external help. And when they need external help, they need to open up to that external help. It could be a therapist, for example. And that's the magic behind Alliance, because we are able to listen to the founders in a way that they can fully open up to us so that we can solve the hardest problems for them. So they can almost think of us as therapists.
Yeah, and one of the most interesting bits of this therapy, I get to say, from my end, has been observing how sometimes founders are dealing with one data point of a certain problem. And when they talk to us, they get to leverage the fact that as a therapist, sometimes we've seen that problem 5 times just this week. And so you might be thinking, oh, wow, this is such a unique situation. And how do I navigate that? And while we are not always able to give you a perfect answer, at least we can tell you, oh, based on our experience, this is what typically happens. This is how it goes. This is how startups that went with this approach solved this problem or didn't. And they get to leverage a lot the cumulative insights that our mentorship team has built.